guys, welcome to my new video. So I am doing a reading wrap up for the month of April. I finished 12 books in April. I DNF'd one and one I had to roll over to May because I started it on the last day of April and I didn't finish it. So like we got a lot of reading done in April. Obviously this was my Tomes and Treasures TBR, so I had a whale of a time. I want to thank everyone who's participated because the way this readathon has gone, I couldn't have asked for more. I know me and Jem are very, very, very thankful for how well it's gone, and it's just been so nice to see people really, really enjoy the readathon. So yeah, so I'm going to go through the books that I've read. So I had 12 books with an average rating of 3.91, so it's gone down quite a bit, and I read a total of 4,967 pages. So we're still doing really, really well with the reading. Of that, I read 8 print books, 3 ebooks, and 8 audiobooks. Like I've always said, I tend to tandem between audio and physical, so some of those I did read whilst listening to the audiobook. I read 10 books that were new to me, 2 books that were rereads, 3 of them were borrowed from either the library or Scribd or things like that, and 9 of them were owned. Of that, I read 3 books by authors of colour this month, which I'm really, really excited about. So let's get into the books that I read. The first book, I'm not going to find them, as per usual. I don't have spoons. I don't know how long I've got to film this, so we're just going to go through it in a rapid succession. So the first book that I read was The Whispering Dark by Kelly Andrew. So this was a book that was a book that I got from Loot Crate. It is a book that a few of my friends have raved about, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4-star. I didn't love it. I think there was a few things that was missing for me, but it was a really, really quick read. It was really, really interesting. I love the fact that we got a deaf character from a deaf author. I really think that really worked. There was a few things that like I wasn't a massive fan of, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I would definitely read something from this author again. The next book that I read was Rolling in the Deep by Mira Grant. I am obsessed with Mira Grant, and I have been very, very wary of reading books by Mira Grant since I read the Feed books, because I loved those books and I didn't think that anything could live up to them. And then I read actually, this was a novella. This was the novella that was the prequel to the Into the Drowning Deep, and I wanted to read it before I read Into the Drowning Deep, so I read Rolling in the Deep, and it was a 4-star. I was really, really interested in it, but I do think that one was one that you could potentially read afterwards and get more of a feel for it, whereas I think it kind of gave the game away a little bit to what was coming into the Drowning Deep. Speaking of Into the Drowning Deep, I then read Into the Drowning Deep, and this was a 5-star book. Mira Grant is so good in the fact that she can write these books that are like what is real life horror things. So like scientifically accurate zombies, scientifically accurate mermaids. Absolutely love that. And this was incredible. It was creepy, it was gory, it had that sense of dread. I'm not I'm not scared of oceans and stuff like that. I wouldn't want to go in one, but I'm not scared of it. But I really, really enjoyed this book. I think it was really interesting. I really, really, really love like a scientific explanation for these things, and Mira Grant has continuously brought in a scientific explanation for why these things are the way they are. And yeah, so this was a 5-star. I very much enjoyed this. The next book I read was For Her Consideration. This was a book that I bought from Afterlight. I was really excited for a sapphic romance, so me and Becca Buddy read this, and it was a 5-star. It was a 5-star. I still stand by that. I think it was really cute. There was a few things that niggled. I don't think this is the best sapphic romance that I've ever read, but it was very, very, I really enjoyed it. It was a good time. I know Becca doesn't feel the same way, but the thing that happened kind of ruined it for her. But I really enjoyed it. It was fun, it was quick, it was easy, it was a good book to read. The next book I read was Love Bites by Lindsay Sands. So I got this last year for my birthday from Andy, and it is Andy's favourite series. I gave this book a 3-star. I gave this book a 3-star because this book is very much a product of its time, and I think you can really, really read that in the book, which is unfortunate because as a modern day reader, there was things that I couldn't look past. It was fun, I will give it that. And there was things that like I enjoyed. There were things that I didn't enjoy. And yeah, I can say that I have tried one of my friend's favourite series, and yeah, I can see why what the appeal is. They feel like very, very quick, easy, fun reads. The next book is potentially my most disappointing book of the month, and this is A Court of Thorns and Roses. So as we all know, I do math along, so I read a Sarah J Maas book every single month because we do a live show, and we are doing A Court of Thorns and Roses in like a few days. Now I always knew that this was my least favourite Sarah J Maas book, and this book went from a 4-star to a 3-star. I've actually knocked it down a star. I'm not going to go into why. If you want to see why, please join us in the Mass Along live show, which I do believe is going to be tomorrow. Feel free to join us. The next book was another reread, and this was Feed by Myra Grant. So this book was because I was talking about it on Sprints, because I was reading Into the Drowning Deep and I was talking about it on Sprints, and my friends were like, oh, I've had a zombie book, and I was like, yeah, but if you know how, like, that's not how I was sold on it. And they're like, oh, how were you sold on it? And I told them, and then we ended up talking about it, and I know that there was like at least another person bought that book, and I know Becca wants to read it, and I'm really excited for that because it is one of my favourite books. It is my favourite zombie book. I'm not a massive fan of zombie books, I'm not gonna lie, but I love the social commentary that is in Feed, and I think that it's such a good political thriller based in a post-zombie apocalypse background. And yeah, I really enjoy it, and I loved rereading it. It was something that just like really gave me some comfort, and it was something that I really, really, really enjoyed, and I do not regret it in the slightest. The next book that I read was The Outside by Ada Hoffman. This book was another 3-star. And the reason that this was a 3-star was because my tiny brain could not understand what was going on. It was just a bit too much for me. I think that this would be a really, really fantastic book for the right person, but I did not feel intelligent enough to read it. It was very cosmic horror in space, and I was getting lost off at bits. And if I'm getting lost off at it, I'm not paying attention. So yeah, unfortunately, not the best for me. The next book that I read was The Book Eaters. So again, another book box book, and I would never have picked this book up on my own. It threw me a little bit first off because I did not know it was it started off set in Newcastle, and I'm very, very close to Newcastle, so I was like, what? Okay. So I read that and I was like, okay, this is weird. But I really enjoyed this. This was a 4-star. There was something missing from it for me, but the atmosphere was great. The book was really, really interesting. It was such a weird, interesting, like almost gothic vibe to it, which I really, really enjoyed. There was just there was something that I didn't like, and I don't know if that was because it felt very Handmaid's Tale, and those books always make me feel uncomfortable. They should. That does not mean that it's a bad book. That does not mean that that is the intention of the book. And because I went into the book quite blind, I didn't know what I was going into, and I think that's potentially what was missing from it for me. because I just kind of sat there and I felt uncomfortable, and I know I was supposed to, but because I wasn't expecting it, I think that kind of made a difference in my opinion of the book, if that makes sense. The next book was the DNF, and that was The Last Graduate. So I gave this book about 160 odd pages, and I did not love it, unfortunately. This was the sequel to A Deadly Education, and I enjoyed A Deadly Education, but I was reading this one, and first off, the narrator is terrible. No, she's not terrible, but she's not for me. I did not enjoy the narrator of this book when I was listening to the audiobook, and I was finding it a slog to read physically, so I started the audiobook, and there were just things that she did that I didn't love. And then I was about 160 pages in, and I just realised I didn't care. The way that the book is, the style of the book is basically someone telling you a story. It feels very much like a transcription of someone telling you a story. And I just didn't care. And I was just bored. And I felt as if like the narration style was not, I wasn't comfortable with the narration style, I think is what I'm trying to get at. It just felt like someone was sat me down and went, well, you might think that this might happen, but no, did this. And I'm like, I don't want that in a book. It felt very much like tell and not show. And I get that tell is a big part of writing. And I know that like it isn't all show, like the show don't tell is totally like, it's not fully bullshit, but it is quite bullshit. Like we have to have those moments where you tell the story and you don't just show the story. However, I want you to do a mixture of both, and this book did not. This book just kind of sat me down and went, we did this, then we did this, then we did this, then we did this, and it just, I sat there and I was just so sick of it that I was like, no, I don't think I need to read any more of this. I don't think I need to read any more of this, and I DNF'd it. So this is sadly the second DNF of the year, but that's fine, we'll get through it. Yeah. The next book that I read was The Kingdom of Copper. This was a 4-star. I really enjoyed this. This was really, really interesting. I think that the information that we got in this book was really good. I love the fact that we kind of built on what book 1 was. The end was insane. I do not know where book 2 is going to go. Book 3 is going to go. I am reading that this year, so fingers crossed. I love that because I really enjoyed the first one. I really enjoyed the second one. So like, hopefully, I would love if this one became a 5-star instead, because like they are definitely getting better, and I think all of them have. Chakraborty has a fantastic like way of explaining stories, and her characters are incredible. There's just always something a little bit missing for me, and I really want to find that in the last book. So fingers crossed, that's what I get. But yeah, this was like I said, this was a 4-star. I really enjoyed it. The next book that I read was The Daughter of No Worlds, and this is by Carissa Broadbent. I read this one because it was on the prompt, a book that will knock your socks off, and sadly my socks are still on. That was a really dumb joke, I'm really sorry. This was a 3-star. This was fine, but I think that it was a bad idea going back to her backlog after I'd read The Serpent and the Wings of Night, because The Serpent and the Wings of Night is perfection. I love that book and I love the sequel, and I'm so excited to read more in that series. Daughter of No Worlds was just kind of, there was something missing. I don't know what was missing, but it was just, there was a lot to be desired, and I think that it's really nice to see that her writing has evolved. And yeah, there was a lot. I will continue with this series because I think that the ending was really interesting, but it wasn't my favourite. The final book that I read in April was to make my good friend Jem happy, and I read Attack on Titan Volume 1. Now, I really enjoyed this. I don't think that manga is my favourite thing. I don't think I'm going to be reading a lot of manga. It's just, it personally, it's something that I'm not drawn to. I couldn't tell you entirely why. I don't think it's something that I'm gonna love personally. But I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. I think it's a really, really interesting start to a series. It's so melodramatic. It's so dramatic. But it was a lot of fun. So I have read that one. And yeah, will I continue with the entire series? I don't know, maybe. It's all on Kindle Unlimited, or most of it's on Kindle Unlimited, so I can just like scroll through it on my phone. But yeah, I really enjoyed Attack on Titan Volume 1. I think it was a good, interesting book. It's not, and I still don't think manga is going to entirely be for me, and that is absolutely fine. And that is my wrap up. So those are all the books that I read in April. I would say that's a good reading month. I was slightly gutted that I didn't finish the second volume, because I started Attack on Titan Volume 2 on the same day, and I was like halfway through it and I was like, I need to know about, I need to go to bed, I'm very, very tired. And I was gutted because that was my 50th book. So I almost hit 50 books by the end of April, and I didn't. I hit it on the 1st of May. Spoiler alert for my wrap up in May, for May. But yeah, so I have now hit 50 books, which was incredible. That is my goal for the year, so yay. Will I try and do 100 books? Maybe. Will I also try and take a break from reading? Maybe. I don't know. I'm really enjoying the reading at the moment, so I might just continue reading for the sake of reading. But yeah, that is my wrap up. If you guys have read any of the books and you agree or disagree with me, let me know in the comments. If you haven't read any of the books but you kind of like the idea of them, let me know in the comments. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye guys.